welcome back to the Middling Along podcast. My guest this time is Abby Langer. Abby has been a registered dietitian since 1999. She's worked extensively in both clinical nutrition and nutrition media and consulting, and has won awards for her teaching, and has served for 3 years on her Regulatory Colleges Council. Abby is passionate about all aspects of nutrition, from physiology to teaching to cooking. Her approach to nutrition is permissive and relaxed, and she's a true believer in living your best life without dieting. She's written in depth about debunking fad diets and nutrition myths, and I'm hoping she's going to talk to us about a few of those today. Welcome to the podcast, Abby.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
One of my particular bugbears, I guess, is that we spend a lot of time now on social media, and we're served up an awful lot of, in inverted commas, expert advice, particularly around nutrition and particularly around sort of menopause and midlife. And I think for many people, it can be quite tricky sometimes to sort of tease apart fact from fad, from people who maybe are kind of giving out advice that they're perhaps not qualified to give, quite apart from, basically going and doing our own due diligence and kind of not necessarily believing everything that is served up to us on Instagram. What are your sort of top tips really for kind of cutting through some of that noise on social media and making sure that the advice that we're taking is the right advice?
Yeah. So, I mean, excuse me, it goes without saying that anybody who's promising anything that doesn't seem legitimate, like lose X number of pounds in X time, or anyone who has a huge store that's selling, cleanses and supplements, or anyone who's saying that you cannot be healthy, or even implying that you can't be healthy without, fasting or without certain supplements. These people are all are suspect, if you will, even if they're doctors. There are plenty of medical doctors who are very well known and who have books on the market. People just take what they say without question. And these doctors, not all of them, but a lot of them, especially in the wellness space, are not being truthful with the way our bodies work. They're targeting women in midlife with diets, restrictive diets. They're spreading misinformation and fear. There's so much junk out there. And I mean, I feel bad for the average person who doesn't know how to read nutrition research, who doesn't know how to discern between truth and myth, because it's like drinking from a fire hose. All of this information is coming at us all the time.
Overwhelming, it really, and quite often conflicting things as well, depending on
absolutely
who you follow. You're particularly good. I really, really like the the sort of the work that you do on Instagram to sort of debunk some of these things. But are there other really, really good accounts on there that you always can direct people to, that are kind of totally trustworthy on this stuff, and we know we're going to get proper information and advice from?
I love Ben Carpenter. I love him and his wife, Zoe Lee. I love them so much. Dr. Jen Gunter is amazing. Amanda Thebe is amazing. Those people are really, they take the evidence and they disseminate information in a way that's not only truthful, but that's easy to understand. And I think that's so important, because what I see a lot of in the wellness space with these people who call themselves experts but are not, is that they take a kernel of truth and they wrap it up in a bunch of misinformation.
They'll cherry pick the information that suits their argument.
People don't do it, and they break stuff down so that you actually know what they're saying is correct, right? So they're very transparent, is what I'm trying to say here.
I mean, you mentioned intermittent fasting, I think, or fasting as one of the things, and I think that's it's quite tempting to go for that one, I think, because of its simplicity.
Right.
But what's your take on that? What's your advice around somebody who's thinking about that as a sort of route towards, say, weight loss, for example?
So intermittent fasting has never been proven to be better than continuous caloric restriction, otherwise known as like just a diet or eating less.
Mm.
The way intermittent fasting works is because you have a small eating window, it's a way to cut calories. It's just one more tool in your calorie cutting toolbox. I personally never recommend it to people because I don't feel ethically okay with that. However, it does quote unquote work for weight loss,
Mm.
absolutely, in some people. Other and I'm talking about not fasting for more than say 16 hours. Like so an 8 and 16 configuration, 8-hour eating window,
Mhm.
16-hour fast. I'm not talking about 4-hour eating windows. I'm not talking about fasting for 3 days. I'm not talking about any of that. That I think is absolutely not necessary and can be harmful for a lot of people. I would not recommend, or even I would recommend that you don't even go near fast. Don't even look at it if you've had a history of an eating disorder.
Mm.
If you or have disordered eating or obsessive compulsive disorder or any of that, it can be so dangerous, and there's just no need for it. As far as fasting goes as well, like I see a lot of claims about it like detoxing our bodies and about autophagy and how it helps us age properly, or like, can like age in reverse, quote unquote. That's never been proven in humans. We are not lab animals. And that's what all the studies are on. So I wouldn't pay any mind to those sorts of claims.
And you've mentioned disordered eating,
Yeah.
and I think that's, we do see a kind of an uptick
Yeah.
of that in people in this age range, that is in part presumably driven by just that sort of number of things like this that are pushed towards people potentially, plus the combination of, yeah, people really really struggling to kind of control their weight gain in
Yeah. I
midlife and
mean,
menopause.
as women, we're taught that, being young and being slim is beautiful. And again, as women, we're taught that once our menstrual cycle ends and we become like quote unquote old, we're dispensable, we're invisible. And I think women have really internalized those values,
Mm.
which is why, and of course it's such a confusing time as well. I mean, I looked in the mirror one day and I my waist was gone. Like, I was like, what the heck just happened? And it happens fast. Like, I found that it happened fast with me. I mean, I've been in menopause for 2 years, and my body continues to change, but it's a mourning period for your old body. And I think that's okay. But like our culture's belief that women have to be fresh and young and slim and never age, and that the fact that women are desperate to reach that is the perfect storm for diet companies to sell their garbage to us, because
Mm.
obviously we're broken, right? Like, quote unquote, and we need to be fixed.
Yeah, and I think the temptation, again, even if they're not necessarily doing sort of intermittent fasting or something like that, is that sort of calorie restriction, but in a way that doesn't really serve us very well for midlife, because we
Yeah.
need to be kind of adding in stuff, not kind of taking away. And actually, a lot of the
Yeah,
time, not having
absolutely.
that kind of enough energy and enough protein is actually going to contribute to some of our issues.
Yes, absolutely. And I have reviewed a lot of these diets on my site, abbylangernutrition.com. And the thing that's in that all of them have in common is that they're just low calorie diets that are
Mm.
low carb. But there's no magic to any of that. It's again like just cutting calories. And women are so vulnerable to it. It just makes me so angry because these people are making money off the backs of women's desperation.
Yeah, you mentioned carbs, which a
Yeah.
sort of certain proportion of the internet seems to want to demonize
Yeah, of
completely.
course. Well, that's been going on for a while. Yeah, but I love my carbs. I never recommend going super low carb. I do think that women in midlife in particular do well on a moderate carb diet. And carbs are also very easy to overeat. Like
Mm.
when you cut carbs down, you're cutting a lot of calories. But I do think you're also shooting yourself in the foot when you do that, because it's like then you crave them. and you don't have energy, and it's stressful for your body to cut carbs too low. So what I recommend is take a look and see, if you're having a little bit too much sweet stuff. Like I eat dessert every day, but it's not like a huge portion.
Mm.
Take a look and see if most of your carbs are predominantly refined. But also, take a look at your alcohol consumption.
Yeah, I think
It's a
that's always
problem.
the yeah,
That's
those
a
empty
really
calories.
yeah, it is. And it's also, women are getting sick and dying in unprecedented rates from alcohol related illnesses. And what I see as a dietitian and one who has been practicing for 24 years is a distinct uptick in a consumption level of alcohol by women, but also a normalization of that. It's mommy's juice, or it's wine
Wine
o'clock,
o'clock.
or even on my Peloton, there's a hashtag, pedals for wine or pillow for wine or whatever. And it's like, that's not funny. It's harmful. And and I see a lot of women who want to lose weight, but then they drink a lot of alcohol each night, and it's I don't even care like about weight. It's like very harmful for your health overall.
I mean, it really does kind of, if you are trying to do that calorie restriction,
Yeah,
you can really sabotage yourself. Not just with the calories, but I think just even then having that something to drink makes you more likely to snack, to be sort of lethargic the next
totally.
day, and to kind of crave sugar and to not sleep well. So it's a whole
Ex Exactly, it creates this perfect storm, and the thing about alcohol is that nobody needs it. You don't really need it, like, to survive, unlike food, and so I would say to any of your listeners, if you think you drink too much, which is more than 1 or 2 a day, I would say, please look into getting help. You may not think you have a problem, and maybe you don't, but please look into cutting down. If you find that hard, get help, because I really do see this as a distinct problem right now with women.
And does it also have a sort of an inflammatory response
Yeah.
in the body?
It's just not a good thing, like, ever. Like, there's zero, as the Canadian government says, there is zero amount of alcohol that's safe.
And in terms of the other inflammation or inflammatory foods is another
Yeah,
thing that seems we're hearing a lot about. Is that a real thing? Is there such a thing as an inflammatory food?
I
Just an
actually thought there's
inflammatory
a couple.
opinion.
Yeah, you know what? That's a great question. We think there are. Nutrition science is so often so bad because you can't keep people in a lab and feed them a prescribed diet for years and years and then see the outcome. But we believe that, yes, like refined carbohydrates, a diet high in refined carbohydrates, a diet high in sugars, any sugar except for maybe fruit sugar, hydrogenated fats, saturated fats. Yes, saturated fats are still on the not so great for you list, despite what the carnivores say. But yeah, so those, and just a diet high in refined foods or ultra processed foods appears to have an inflammatory effect on our bodies. Inflammation itself is normal for
Yeah.
us. We would die if we didn't have inflammation. However, we're talking now about chronic inflammation and how it's mediated by diet. And yes, we do think that those foods or components of foods do cause that.
Just kind of following on from, you were talking about sort of saturated fat. So I think sort of fats and oils are another area
Okay.
that can be super confusing. I
Yeah.
think the whole
Yeah.
seed
Seed
oils
oil.
are
Oh,
coming for
well,
us argument, and yeah, which some people very passionate about.
very. Yes.
But yes, what's the truth as we know it in terms of
So the truth as we know it is that seed oils may be anti-inflammatory, not inflammatory. I think there's a difference between someone saying seed oils are inflammatory and a diet that's heavy in seed oils is inflammatory. Nobody
mm,
eats seed oils in isolation. What do we find? What foods do we find seed oils most in? We find them a lot in ultra processed food. So
Right.
people
So we're demonizing the wrong thing.
right. And I think this is the problem is that people tend to want to pick one ingredient or another, like saturated fat or like sugar or, X is inflammatory or whatever. And it's not about that. It's about the totality of your diet.
Yeah.
I eat ice cream almost every day. I'm fine. And I tell my clients they can have something sweet every day, but I expect that their diet looks a certain way, right? Most days, not every
Mm.
day, but most days, lots of minimally processed food or unprocessed food, whole grains, all of that stuff, healthy proteins, healthy fats, lots of plants, tons of plants. And it's just if people have this very like they don't have a global view of diets. They want to pick on like little ingredients, and that's not really how these things work.
Mm. Well, and it's not how we eat generally. We
No,
might have a
no.
sort of a the shift be tipping the balance a little bit too far in the favor of a certain thing, but
Yeah.
yeah. Talk to me about eggs because I really like eggs.
Oh no. I'm about to shoot a reel on the medical medium saying that eggs grow viruses. Let's just get this out of the way. There is no evidence to show that eggs are harmful for to the human body, that they breed viruses or whatever in the human body. However, eggs are a great source of protein. They're inexpensive, and right now there's people who are struggling to put food on the table. So
Mm.
don't you dare like say that eggs do this and do that when there's no evidence behind it. They're a healthy source of protein. They have nutrients in them that are great for the body, like lutein, choline. And honestly, in terms of the cholesterol, like when I first graduated from nutrition school all those years ago, we used to think that dietary cholesterol impacts our blood cholesterol. So people would say, well, you can't eat more than 3 eggs a week. But now we know that it likely doesn't. And that, if you're a normal, healthy person, you can probably eat at least an egg a day and with no sort of bad. Of course, there's hypermetabolizers. We're not talking about those people, but most normal, healthy people can eat at least 1 egg a day without any consequence to their health.
Okay. Oh, so I should be spreading my eggs out a bit more because I do like to have a 2 eggs scrambled. So maybe not every day.
It's fine. Like I always say, you know what? Like if there's nothing wrong with eggs 2 at a time, 3 at a time, but look at because they still do have saturated fat. So are you
Mm.
eating eggs instead of meat? Are you eating eggs instead of, does your diet have like a lot of saturated fat in it? Are you eating a ton of bacon and sausage and all of that kind of stuff? If you're not, then it should be fine. Like again, the totality of your diet is what matters the most here. And if you love your eggs, then keep eating them.
You mentioned cholesterol, and I think that's another one that
Yeah.
people find a little kind of confusing and difficult to sometimes to get on top of. Also, our cholesterol levels do rise, don't they? Sort of post
Yes.
menopause, just that
Yes, they
change in
do.
our metabolism.
Yes. Cholesterol levels do rise in response to menopause in response to the hormonal changes that we have during menopause and during perimenopause. So what I would recommend is that people increase the fiber in their diet. Fiber is like, I know it's not sexy, but it's
It has a
honestly,
really bad PR kind of
it
backing,
totally
doesn't it?
fiber needs a new PR company. So do prunes, because both of those things are awesome. But fiber is like the miracle nutrient you're not eating. And don't quote me on that because it sounds like Dr. Oz, something Dr. Oz would say. But honestly, it does so much for our health, and people don't eat enough of it. Like you need 25 to 30 grams of fiber a day at least. And
And probably
to
most of
get
us
it,
aren't hitting that.
oh no, like maybe 5, 10, grams a day. But if you eat a lot of plants, because people always say, well, how am I supposed to get that? Through supplements? And I say to them, if you eat, it's possible, definitely possible to get that much fiber through your diet, but you have to put some effort into it. So lots of legumes, beans and lentils. I think you guys call them pulses, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So pulses are amazing. Not only are they protein packed, they're also packed with fiber, and they're like a healthy source of carbs, amazing. Tons of plants, tons of fibrous veggies like broccoli, leafy greens, all of that stuff
I'm
will
feeling
help.
very smug because I made lentil soup and I've had broccoli today. So
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Yeah, fruits like especially berries and stone fruits like pears, peaches, plums. I mean, it's not exactly the time of year for those,
no,
but yeah.
but
But
frozen berries are
yeah,
fine, right?
amazing, amazing. And all of that can contribute a significant amount of fiber. Nuts, seeds, avocados, all of that has fiber in it. And that is one thing that I recommend for cholesterol. Again, like moving your body as much as you can in whatever way that you can, decreasing your total intake of saturated fats, watching for trans fats, which shouldn't be in the food system, kind of still are in the form of hydrogenated oils. And yeah, I mean, just like focusing on eating as many whole foods as you can. And I actually feel like kind of uncomfortable giving that recommendation now because I know people are struggling to feed
Yeah,
themselves and their families. And, whole foods can be expensive. So I want to qualify that by saying that frozen and canned whole foods are fine as well. I know like canned vegetables have a bad rap, but honestly, they're great. Just rinse them off and cook them up. Frozen just as good or sometimes better than fresh. So yeah, do what you can. I'm not sitting here saying everything has to be organic. That's probably your next question because I think organic is just a marketing ploy. I never buy organic food for my family. I have two daughters and a husband, and none of them get organic food. I just think there's never been, it's just, I'm not convinced
mm.
it's
Well,
healthy.
just in terms of there's no, you're essentially you're paying. Well, are you paying for them to be chemical free because they're not
They're not
necessarily
chemical free.
completely?
They're
Yeah,
not, and I just not convinced that they improve lifespan or disease risk at all. Like, and this is the problem is that like there's a lot of people online saying, I have a reel on my Instagram of one woman saying if you can't find organic berries, don't eat them. Well, why are you convincing people that what conventionally grown food is poison? Now they're going to eat even less fruits and vegetables. And we already have a problem. Only 1 in 10 people eat enough fruits and vegetables.
really.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I say to people, buy what you can afford. You don't need to buy organic. There's the research behind it. At the end of the day, having a clinically relevant effect on your health is not convincing to
Mm.
me. So,
Beware of people in supermarket aisles
oh,
picking on a particular
so obnoxious.
unpronounceable ingredient or yeah, or trying to
Yeah.
sell you something.
Yeah. It's awful. They're everywhere.
Mm,
And beware of people making extreme statements like that. This is toxic. This is poison. Sugar's poison. Don't eat berries. Don't eat X if they're not organic. That is just a dead giveaway for a red flag person who you should not be getting your nutrition or health information from.
but they do get, I mean, huge numbers of clicks,
Yeah,
don't
they
they?
do. Absolutely. It's disgusting. But, like, what can you do? I'm just
Yeah.
trying to take them down one by one.
One myth bust at a time.
Oh,
If you could kind of reach into the internet and grab just one of them, what do you think is the most kind of harmful misinformation that is kind of being bandied around out there at the moment?
you know what the most harmful one is that you can cure cancer with your diet. That one
Mm,
really makes me angry. I've fought with a lot of people online. Just the idea that if you flip that around, it's kind of insinuates that people who have cancer are responsible for
mm,
their disease. My father was a surgeon. He died of metastatic cholangiocarcinoma, which is like cancer of the gallbladder. He absolutely not was not responsible for his disease. Like I take
yeah.
that very personally,
You're
but
not
I've
trying
also
hard enough to
yeah,
heal
like
yourself.
you're not, it was your fault because you didn't eat a raw keto diet. Like that's disgusting. And it's also convincing people that they shouldn't take conventional treatments. There's research about this that shows that people who reject conventional cancer treatments in favor of an alternative treatment, I'm talking not talking complementary treatments, which are done alongside conventional treatments. I'm talking about instead of chemotherapy, they're doing an alternative treatment, they're 4 times likely to die from their
Wow.
disease. Yeah, but then there's people out here, they're like saying that, and I can't stand for that. Like, every time I see it, I bite, because it's personal, but it's also a professional, just disgust with these people.
So on the flip side then, what for people who are just kind of starting out thinking about trying to kind of make some positive lifestyle changes around kind of perimenopause and kind of really set themselves up well, because we know how impactful looking at lifestyle can be, what would be the top 3 things? Fiber you've already mentioned, so
Yeah,
that's your
fiber's
number
number
1.
1. I would say please take a step away from the diets, because,
Mm,
starving yourself, it never ends well. Has it ever ended well for you? Probably not. It's not about to end well anytime soon. So add food back into your diet. Do not take food away. Do not listen to people who say that, you need to fast or stop eating gluten or dairy. All of that is total garbage. But just like step away from that diet mindset. I do have a
mm,
course that I run for women over 40, and it talks all about this, teaches women how to make friends with food, changes the relationship with food, all of that. So you never diet again. It's on my website. You can sign up. But that diet behavior is the single most predictor for future weight gain.
mm. Feel like we've got so much else going on
I
that's
know,
we're
like,
trying to
why are you
navigate.
stressed?
Why make it harder for
Yeah,
yourself?
like, why? And then the third one is moving your body. And I know there's people with different levels of ability out there, and I honor that. So, whatever you can do, is you do not have to go to the gym and like start running. That's crazy. Just being active. Research shows that aside from intentional activity, like intentional exercise, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or otherwise known as the movements in our daily life that are not exercise, are way more impactful than intentional exercise on our health and our weight. So I teach my class, improve your NEAT, your
Mm.
non-exercise activity thermogenesis, move around when you're on a meeting, or walk to the store to get your coffee, or just like the little things, go into your garden and dig up some bulbs or whatever. That makes way more difference than intentional exercise and slogging away at the gym, which is like what I did for ages and never was satisfied.
Yeah, we're not designed to be sedentary things, are we? We're not
No,
designed to be sitting at desks and on chairs for
absolutely
8
not.
hours a day.
You're right.
Well, I think that's a really, really fantastic place to finish. Abby, thank you so much for coming and talk to us today. You've already mentioned your website, but give it another plug. It's
AbbyLangerNutrition.com. My Instagram is at Langer Nutrition. My book is Good Food, Bad Diet. My course is Eating After 40, and you can find that on my website.
great. Well, I'll put links in the show notes, and I would definitely recommend, if you're not already following Abby on Instagram, do it, and and you will never get bad nutrition advice again, or at least you won't fall for anyone else's, because she's out there debunking them. So thank you very much for all of the great work that you're doing there, and making sure that, yeah, we can get really, really good scientific proven evidence-based advice.
Yes, you're
So
welcome.
yeah, lovely chatting to you. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Middling Along podcast. Do remember to subscribe to be notified when our next episode is live. And why not visit the blog at www.middlingalong.com to sign up to my newsletter as well. I do hope you enjoyed listening today. If you did, I'd be really grateful if you would consider leaving a short review, as that helps people find the podcast and helps get it noticed. Hope you can join us next time. Goodbye for now.